Hey, good evening, everyone. I call the regular City Prescott meeting to order. It is Monday, January 13th at 6 o'clock. Do roll call. Mike?
Here.
Adam?
Here.
Dar?
Here.
John?
Here.
Lindsay? Here. And Maureen is excused. Everybody stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Council will receive public comments on any issue related to the agenda. Limited discussion by the council may take place. Okay, the next item is the consent agenda. Fire and EMS Board minutes from December 11th, City Council workshop minutes from December 16th, general fund balances for December, cash balances December, paid invoice report from December.
Motion to approve consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is reports of standing committees and commissions. Nothing for finance. Planning Commission, next meeting Monday, February 3rd at 6. Parks and Public Works, next meeting is rescheduled to January 21st at 5. Health and Safety Committee report from January 13th.
Yeah, so tonight we met, there were 2 items on the agenda. The first item was presenting the data from we were presenting data in regards to traffic around the intermediate school. And after reviewing the data, we were, discussing whether or not to maybe, if there was enough traffic during school hours which would warrant a stop sign off of Kinnickinnick or off of Orange Street and Young Street. And the data just wasn't supporting that. Council recommended, or the committee recommended, detailed signage, improving signage around that area with better signage and lights, and it would happen at 2 different points within Orange Street and also on Kinnickinnick as well. And it would be similar to what signage is in place up at the high school in Malone. And that'll be presented at maybe the next council meeting. We'll see where we're at with it. And then the second item was just more revisions on chapter 248 about bicycles. So just kind of cleaning up that chapter, eliminating a lot of old language, and that will go to council.
Next meeting.
The next meeting. And those were the 2 items, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. So next Health and Safety Committee meeting is Monday, March 10th at 5 o'clock. Personnel, next regular meeting is Wednesday, February 5th at 5 o'clock. Next item is communication, new business. Public comments. The council will receive comments on any issue not related to the agenda. Limited discussion by the city council may take place. However, no action will be taken on any items. It includes receiving written requests, documentation, possible action at a future meeting. Okay, hearing none. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 0125, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2025A, in the city of Prescott, Wisconsin. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So Resolution 0125 and Resolution 0225 both cover our borrowings for the Riverfront Phase 2 project, which we discussed on December 16th. I'm actually going to turn it over to Sean Lentz with Ellers, who is our financial advisors, to discuss and give you more information on them.
Great. Thank you, Matt. Does everyone have the pre-sale reports? We'd have two of them. Okay, great. As Matt introduced the topic, and I should mention at the outset, I'm Sean Lentz, this is Peter Madoff, so we've both been working together with Matt and the rest of the city staff on putting together the finance plan. For the group, maybe before starting, just to talk about the background on this, does everyone feel comfortable and have understanding of the tax increment districts in the city? Okay, so guys, I want to make sure we're all good on that. As you know, you have two very successful districts, 4 and 5, and then you have a third district, number 6, but that's very new. In the case of district number 4, that district is rapidly coming up to the end of its expenditure period. It's March 3rd, and I'm sure this is information that Matt has shared with the council. So for the Riverfront Phase 2 project, we want to get the financing in place, and I know you're going to go through the bidding process for some of the projects as well, so we can get those things in place before that March 5th deadline. And what we've proposed to do after discussing this with Matt is to put the projects into two categories. The first issue, which is the $1,665,000 promissory note issue, Series 2025A, those are projects that are in the Riverfront Phase 2 project list that are unhindered by any sort of issues. I know with the transient dock, you've got some litigation issues. Because of that, we've separated that out into the to the financing in the 2025B category. So maybe I'll spend a second on 2025A, and then we'll talk about the differences with 2025B. But primarily, you may ask, I would, in your shoes, why do two? Why not just do one? And it's really around making sure we're in a position to have these projects be eligible, tax increment district number 4 projects, but also have a financing setup that should the plans change, we can change with them. That was really the thought. Okay, so if I can have everyone on the 2025A report go to exhibit number 1 of that. So it's a couple of pages back. There's 3 exhibits at the back end of the report. And what this report does, or exhibit 1 does, is it lays out for the city council the proposed repayment schedule for the non-transient dock portion of the Riverfront Phase 2 project list. The issue, the $1,665,000, we would anticipate being paid back, payments starting in 2026, going through 2030. You may say, okay, 2030, what's important about that date? That is the projected last year that we would collect revenue in District Number 4, so we'll be using annual revenue from tax increment District Number 4 fund in the city to make these annual debt service payments over the next couple of years. The interest rates that were shown here are about 50 basis points, or 0.5% above current market. It's a new year, not a lot of sales toward the end of December because of the holidays, but we're watching sales, and we'll keep the council monitor and up to date if things change. But right now, this is, again, about 0.5% above what we're seeing on a similarly rated type issue. Okay. If you can go to Exhibit 2, the issue that we're selling is or proposing to sell is a general obligation issue of the city. So that means that from the standpoint of the collateral that you, the council, are pledging to the people who will bid on this issue, and ultimately someone will be buying it, you're pledging the full faith and credit of the city, which is really your ability to levy taxes, to pay things back. We don't intend on using general fund taxes to pay this back. Our intention is to use the revenues of the tax increment district, and I'll show you that in a second. But because it's general obligation debt, it does count against the limit, and the limit is 5% of the equalized value of the city. So for Prescott, the green line, which is a little bit below 35 million, That's where you sit right now under state law as the absolute maximum using general obligation debt that you could borrow. Then the bars at the bottom, blue and kind of the orangish, and the green, that's the actual, I'm sorry, the blue and the orange. That's the existing debt outstanding, pledging general obligation, as well as the proposed new pledging general obligation. And as you can see, we're well below that limit, and it's not a concern or a challenge for the city right now. And you'll have that ability, should you choose to use it for other types of projects, you'll have that capacity available to you. Okay? And then finally, if you can go over to exhibit number 3, as I'd mentioned, the pledge that you as a council make to the bondholders and the city makes to the bondholders is that it's a general obligation, and if you had to, you'd levy taxes to make the annual payments on it. Our intention is to use revenues from the tax increment district, which has been a very successful district, both in terms of doing redevelopment projects in the more the downtown area of the city, as well as cash flowing and paying back those projects. What you see on Exhibit 3, we've added in purple the new debt, the new proposed debt for the Riverfront Phase 2 projects. And then if you look at the right side of the page, where it says annual and cumulative balance, you'll see that those numbers are staying well above 0. And 0 would mean we're out of money in tax increment district number 4. So based on the value that is in the district right now, so this is value that's been created up and above the existing value that was there when the TID was originally created, multiplied by the tax rate that is currently in place for the city, we anticipate that you will have more than enough dollars to cover this new debt over the next period of time through 2030 when the tax increment district is paid off. And in the event that we actually accumulate dollars faster, there may even be a possibility to prepay the debt off sooner than that 2030 date, again, depending on the TID into the future years. But right now, just based on what's there currently, we're able to show on the model here that we're covering this new debt that the city is proposing to issue. Okay. You'll notice that on this particular model, we did put both issues, both the $1,665,000 that we're talking about in the Series A, and then in the Series B issue, which is for the transient dock, that's listed on the model as well. As I'd mentioned, the reason we're suggesting the city separate that into a second financing is litigation-related issues. As I talked about, and Matt may have mentioned this to you as well, in order to have this be an eligible project, we need to have the financing in place before that March 3rd of 2025 date. What we wanted, though, by achieving that goal, having the financing done, we've achieved and be able to charge the expense to TID number 4. But we also wanted to have the flexibility with the unknown related to litigation. If something were to happen that didn't allow us to proceed, we didn't want a debt issue outstanding, say to 2030, that the city would have to keep paying on for a project that you potentially would not be moving forward. So with this second approach and having a separate issue, the plan is to just draw the money that's required, which would be probably about $50,000 to make it a tax-exempt valid issue. And then and we'll do that before that March 3rd of 2025 date. And then as you find out whether the project is going to be able to move ahead unhindered, you can draw the rest of the money down for the note. In the event that for whatever reason things go the other way and you find out the project isn't going to move forward, you just take the note, pay it off, and we'll close it up. So that'll give the city flexibility because of this unknown factor right now to be able to, depending on circumstances, move one way or the other related to the transient dock project, while also getting the project in, the financing in place so that we've met that goal of having the ability to charge it to the special tax increment district number 4 fund. Okay. Timeline-wise, the plan would be at your meeting at the end of February, so you'll have those bids at that point, I believe, Matt, the construction bids in place. We will take competitive proposals for the two issues the morning of the 24th and bring those back for your review. At that point, you'll have final proposals that you can take action on that evening. So that'll be the finalization date to lock into the interest rates. But in order to get the process started, we wanted to run this by the full council today and also answer any questions that you might have before we move forward through completing the financing. Okay. So I think we covered everything, Matt?
Correct.
Yep, okay. So if there's any questions, be happy to try to answer those.
I had one real quick.
Sure.
Being it is a general obligation, and being that essentially that means that the Prescott taxpayers are on the hook ultimately at the end of the day, is there any scenario, or what would that scenario look like if the TID wasn't able to make the payments?
Gotcha.
I mean, I know it's probably an extreme scenario, but just so we're.
What would happen with
what
that?
may happen.
Yeah, so.
Or what would cause that to happen, I should
What
say.
could cause it? Okay, so if you look at exhibit number 3, I had mentioned that there's a column there called the TID value increment column. I'm sorry, the number, the letters and numbers get a little small in the exhibit. But you'll see there for taxes collected in revenue year 2025, TID number 4 has 40.2 million in value in it. Now, that value is a little higher than what it normally would be because the value is understated in 24 for last year. So what happens usually, the state overstates it for 1 year, then it'll land, and that's why we think it'll ultimately land at 34 million. If that value, to answer your question about what would that look like, what would need to happen to cause this to not be able to be paid by the TID is that 34 would have to drop significantly, which then when the value drops, if the tax rate stays approximately the same, the revenue would drop. And if you look at the cumulative balance, if the revenue dropped ultimately more than $741,000 over the time period between 2025 through 2030, then we'd have to find another funding source of the city to make that up.
Got it.
And so what could that be? I mean, it really extreme situations. Let's say we had a major storm that went through the city and really did significant damage to the downtown area, and the values plummeted because of that. So structures are not there, those kind of things. If something like that happened, what I would see us doing in working with city staff and with the council is we would probably take this debt and adjust it, refinance it, restructure it to not have a significant impact or try to minimize that impact because those tax revenues wouldn't be coming in anymore. And we would be talking about that if anything like that ever occurred, but that, just to give you a sense of what it would take for that sort of a situation to materialize.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Sean.
Yep, you bet, Murph.
So can we combine the two resolutions for one vote, or do we have to do them separately?
separate.
We don't have to take a roll call on these, so I think we could combine them all into both and approve both of them at the same time.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 01-25, providing the issuance and sale of general obligation promissory notes, Series 2025A of the City of Prescott, Wisconsin, and Resolution 02-25, providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation promissory note, Series 2025B of the City of Prescott, Wisconsin.
I'll second them, whoever.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 01-25 and 02-25. Is there any discussion on the motion? I'll do a roll call. Mike?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Lindsay?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 03-25, approving the modifications of the Prescott boat launch by River City Welding Incorporated in the amount of $57,497. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So at our December 16th meeting, we discussed this and motioned it to come to council. But essentially, since we've put in the boat launch, there's been two major complaints that we've gotten. First, you can see in the picture, we do have where the dock is raised. This was initially designed this way, so as the river level came up, that it would pivot. Unfortunately, the pivot is causing, as the water to rise, the dock's rising, but it's also causing issues where boats can get caught underneath it. And then additionally, the other issue is that the length of the actual launch itself, as the water rises, goes underwater faster. This is an issue that's always going to happen as being part of the river. In the past, we've had a dock that has actually sat on the asphalt where the floats would sit on it, and Public Works could drag it in and out. Unfortunately, that wears the floats, and it also causes an issue where every time somebody accidentally hits it, it moves the whole dock, so then Public Works is causing a huge amount, or maybe not a huge, but a large amount of their time is going to adjusting that dock and fixing it in the summer. So that's ultimately why we designed it this way. However, we are looking, because of this, to make two adjustments. One, we would remove it so that it's no longer raised and goes up and down. It would actually just sit now on the ground, kind of like our previous dock, but it would actually be sitting on guide posts. So there'd be posts that would protect it from actually being hit, and those guide posts would allow it to go up and down. And so as part of that, we'd also be adding 20 feet of length into the parking lot, and we'd be taking the current ramp structure and moving it over to the handicapped area that's next to it, so we would be reusing the current docks. So we did get a quote from River City Welding, who initially designed it, to make the adjustments, and that's what's before you tonight for $57,497. This would be coming out of the TID 4 funding, similar to what we just discussed for the other river phase 2 items. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
So it's gonna, so the new one would go 20 feet further into the parking lot?
Yep. So it would still, there'd be more time before the water, it'd have to come up higher to actually flood the whole thing before it wouldn't be usable.
It's not gonna impede on traffic or anything like that?
No, so the plans that we have put together, it will basically be level with where the turning radius is, where you turn and come back down. Yes, I don't know what you talk about the boat launch.
Need a motion?
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll make motion to approve resolution 03-25, approving the modifications of the boat launch by River City Welding, not to exceed the amount of $57,497.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second, to approve resolution 0325, not to exceed the amount of $57,497. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just wanted to make a comment that I am impressed with how quickly we were able to look at this issue, hear from the public. There was a big outcry around this, and then how quickly we were able to find a solution here. So great work on everyone involved.
Okay, do a roll call. Mike?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Gar?
Aye.
John?
All right,
Lindsay?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried, thank you. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 0425, a petition for the addition of a pedestrian crossing to an existing at-grade crossing. Matt?
Yes, so as part of the Riverfront Phase 2 project, one of the things that we're looking to do is create a pedestrian crossing over the railroad. So as part of that, one of the first things we have to do is basically request a modification per the Office of the Commissioner of Railroads, and that will establish our general guidelines. They'll hear that with the resolution before you, assume it passes tonight. If it does, it would take that design, what would need to have happen in order for general safety protocols. We would be responsible for final project costs and determining of the necessary warning devices for that. So the first step in doing that would be passing this resolution requesting modifications for a pedestrian crossing as part of the Riverfront Phase 2 project. So turn over to council for comments and questions. There's a
So the railroad
over-
gives us a kind of a design that's okay with them, is what you're saying? Because we're asking them for their commission to,
So we'll submit this design, but then they ultimately make the final determination of what is needed for like warning devices, if there's gonna have to be an arm
okay.
that's extended the other way, so when, I know there's an arm that goes and stops traffic, if there's another one that goes to stop pedestrians as well, they'll make the final decision on what all needs to be incorporated into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 04-25, petitioning for the addition of a pedestrian crossing to an existing at-grade roadway crossing.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second to approve Resolution 0425. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 05-25, authorizing the transfer of $14,323 from the sewer fund to the water fund. Matt?
Thank you, Mayor. So, as part of our water rate study that we submitted to the Wisconsin Public Service Commission, one of the things they do is a full audit. I know there's been a lot of discussion, we just sent out letters this week talking about the overall potential increase in the public hearing. The one thing I did just want to mention is, right now the city of Prescott is 625th out of 633 water utilities in the entire state. Once our new water rates do go into effect, and that's both phases, we go up to 448 out of 633. So I think, just to be clear, we're dealing with, the potential increases to PFAS, nitrates, lead, and then we just generally are trying to replace aging water infrastructure. So I think it's clear, I don't want to speak for all of you, but I don't think anybody wants to see water rates go down. It'd be great if we could be at 633 for our entire life and have the cheapest water, but at the same time, the water infrastructure we do have is in need of replacement and repairs and treatment. So ultimately, that's the reasoning why we moved forward with the water rates and the changes that we're seeing. But as part of the audit, there were two things that did come up regarding second meters. First, since 2002, the city has been charging for second meters, which we're not allowed to per our tariff. And since 2002, the city of Prescott has not been charging public fire protection for second meters, which we are required. So as part of that, basically, the PSC audit required us to go through and find those second meter customers and make a determination of how much we owe them back for their meter, how much we can charge them back for 2 years of public fire protection. And then at the end of the day, basically what happens for those second meters, we had a certain percentage or a certain amount of them that were due refunds for those second meter charges. Those total amounted to $16,556. And then we had a total amount of customers that were actually having to owe the city of Prescott money back, which totaled $14,323. At our December 16th meeting, our workshop, we discussed this, and essentially the overall feedback that we agreed on was that those that were asked to be charged back to the city, because it was a city mistake, we didn't feel that it was justified to make those customers pay money back to the city. So basically the way that we do this is that we have a city payback in terms of those bills. So in total, that $14,323 though would have to still come from somewhere to make the water fund whole. So what we're proposing is that comes from the sewer fund tonight, and that's what's before you. As part of this resolution, overall the sewer fund has a balance of just under $5 million. A lot of these, or most of these funds are meant for future improvements to our sewer treatment plant. But based on where it's at a healthy amount, and we still believe we'll have enough funding available for future improvements to make those with this transfer. And this would be a grant that would be made from the sewer fund to the water fund. It would not be a loan that would be made. So with that, I'll turn it over to council for comments and questions.
I don't have any questions.
Well, the only thing, is this gonna make the state happy?
Is it gonna?
That
Sure.
we pass it over, because at the workshop, you didn't know for sure the state was gonna.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the state's just looking for these funds to be made to make, so that they're corrected and that the audit is fulfilled, so
They're not happy, okay.
I guess I can't speak on if the state will be happy for sure or not.
That never happened.
For now, I'll make a motion for resolution 0525, authorizing the transfer of $14,323 from the sewer fund to the water fund.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 0525. Is there any discussion on the motion? Now I'll do a roll call. Lindsay?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Dar?
Aye.
Adam?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thank you. Next item is approval of the Prescott Area Fire and EMS Association Agreement. Touch on that, Matt?
Yes, thank you. So since the beginning of 2024, the Prescott Area Fire and EMS Association has been working on making modifications to the overall agreement that we have with Oak Grove and Clifton Township. So before you tonight are those changes. The major changes, essentially, we're changing the board. It's currently a board to a commission, so that it aligns with Wisconsin state statutes. We're adding a section that requires members must approve the association's budget as submitted by the commission by October 1st of each year. Also adding the section that basically we're changing it so that it works the same as the library, that once we appropriate funds as a city, those funds go to the fire fund. And so we, as a city, would no longer have the ability to control any of those funds. It would go in a separate fund that the commission would then control. And essentially the way that works is then that they would have to use those funds for future fire truck purchases or building improvements or other capital items. Also adding a section, we as a city, because we're over 4,000, are required to have a board of commission, similar to like our police commission, our fire commission does have to serve. Since we're working with those other three entities, this commission, as part of this agreement, now becomes that joint board of commissioners, and they're in charge of basically hiring and firing of all fire personnel staff. We really only have the fire chief, the rest are volunteers, but they would still hear personal matters as well, just as our police commission would, so this commission would serve as that. And then we just updated some language, removing that they're overseeing human resources and just matched it to Wisconsin statute 62.13. And then the maintenance of effort that just went into effect back in 2023 with this new state statutes was added to the language as well. That basically that reporting has to be done per state statutes every year. The Fire and EMS Association met and reviewed on their December 11th meeting and approved 5-0 to move forward to municipalities for approval of this agreement. So I'll turn it over to the council for comments or questions.
Well, I think there was supposed to be a fire engine that was supposed to be bought in 2027, so they would be responsible for buying this $1.6 million fire engine then?
So
How would they come up with the funds is my question.
that one would be a little bit unique, and so if we're borrowing funds, that would still have to go through all three entities. They can use the funds that are in their fire fund to purchase whatever, if they have cash on hand through the saving to make those purchases, but for instance, that one, there won't be enough funds available to make, so they'll have to still borrow for that, which is incorporated into our version of our next version of our capital improvement plan. So that would be what comes before you guys still, if it's borrowing. But if it's funds, like cash on hand, they could make those purchases without coming back to every municipality. So like in 2029, there's a replacement of the fire inspector truck for like $90,000. That cash on hand, they would just approve that and make that purchase without coming back to council.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between the Prescott Area Fire and EMS Association.
Second.
We have a motion, a second, to approve the Prescott Area Fire and EMS Association Agreement. Is there any discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, other business. We do have a open seat for the April election, Ward 1. Chance to step up to the plate and come and make a difference. Just come to City Hall and throw your name in the hat if you choose. You have to run as a write-in, but there is an open seat. Any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
We have a motion, a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
So you're not gonna